Alright, continuing on with the Predicta, I decided to go ahead and do a test of that power supply a little bit. So the first thing I did was I hooked it up using my power supply. This is isolated. It's got an AC meter, an AC voltmeter plug using a cheater cord right here. I've got a voltmeter hooked up right now. This is hooked up at the damper output, and I've got it set to the 250 volts, so I'm at about 150 volts right now. And I've got the DC amperage. You can see I'm only pulling 1 milliamp, so that makes sense because I pulled out most of the power tubes, so this thing really isn't seeing much of a draw. I thought that was higher than that. Let me check something real quick. Yeah, it's just really low. So, and I did make sure that the filament, let me turn the lights out. We can see the filaments are lighting up. I don't know if you can make that out. Let me turn this light off. But you can see the filament. Yeah, there you go. So that means it looks like the power supply is working pretty well. I pulled out some of the power tubes, the vertical out, horizontal out, left these others in. To my buddy who's concerned about pulling the tubes out, this one was a real bear. Unlike some of the IF tubes and other shielded tubes, this didn't even have any holes around it to get at. And normally I would use my tool here to get under the tube and pull it, but this one here has a shield and no access holes, so I had no choice but to really wiggle the daylights out of that one to get them out of there. And something about these particular sockets, I've never seen tube sockets so aggressive on how they hold the pins. I mean, you really have to work that to get it out. But yeah, that's just the way it is. As I plug these tubes back in, they start to conduct, and we should see some increased current. Let's go ahead and plug these in just to see what happens. I'm nowhere. I have the horizontal out tube out right now. I'm not in any position to worry about high voltage at this point, not to mention all the bad caps in here, but we should see some increase in the current as those filaments start to light up. Let's see if that starts happening. Let me turn the light out, make sure they're even coming up. Oh yeah, I can faintly see, I don't think you can see it, but there's a very faint glow in that 6BQ5, which is the output tube. I think it's a 6DR7 for the video out. I frankly expected more. Oh, you know something? Duh. I had it on DC milliamps. Okay, there we go. We're up to about 70 and climbing to plugging those tubes in. I thought that 1 milliamp didn't seem possible. I'll pull them out. We pull out the audio and the vertical. Boom, it drops back down. So what we're doing here is I've got it set at about 55 volts AC, and I'm seeing about 150 volts. I think that's pretty reasonable considering there's no load on it at all. As I ramp this up, what I'll typically do is bring this up. I'll turn the variac up and I'll go ahead and bring this up. My DC voltage, going right about 250 now. Of course, the milliamps will increase. Everything starts to go up. But what I'm looking for here is the heat on this filter cap. I'm not going to try to touch that doubler cap because A, it's got an insulator on the can. I can't really touch it anyway, but I really don't think there's a problem with this B+. Yeah. If it wasn't for all these caps in here, I'd be tempted to plug this thing in and see if I can get any high voltage. Maybe as the day goes on, I get bored, I might just give it a shot. The one thing I'm a little nervous about, though, is I noticed that there was still B+ on the flyback even after pulling the damper out. And I ran into this once before. I got to check the schematic to see if there's any other source of B+ to that damper that doesn't come from the flyback. I mean, sorry, if there's any other source of B plus going to this flyback that doesn't come through the damper first. Because, here, I'll show you what I mean. Here's what we're going to do. We're going to clip onto the, that's basically the, pin 2 is a damper connection. This thing's making me nuts. Alright, look, I'll just go over here. Okay, so we're on the damper. I'm still getting 250 volts. Now you pull the damper out, and what happens to the people? And it drops down, but only drops down to 200 volts. So I'm going to go see if there's some other path. Maybe there's a resistor in there I'm missing or something like that, because I had this issue once before where I had a shorted capacitor that was causing a problem like this. So we're going to take a quick look at the schematic and see if we can figure out what's going on. Let me go ahead and do that real quick. I'll just go ahead and pull it up. Bear with me for a second. Alright. Open this thing up. Okay, let's take a look. I think I'll have to go to the next page and see the... Alright, here we go. Pin 2. Alright, here's pin 2 right here. And you see it's hooked up to the damper cathode. This makes sense. Oh, okay, here's the path I'm missing. There's 100K 1 watt here, and there's 180K here. So there is indeed a source back to the 275. For some reason I thought there wasn't, but okay, so that's very possible. And the cap in question that's causing me problems in the, I thought the only source was through the damper tube. So that's what was throwing me out. But clearly there isn't. And I've had problems here with this capacitor right here being shorted. And I wonder if that's the one that, I think that's in the same position of that one that was replaced. Let's see. Let me zoom to page 11 and we'll scroll down to the capacitor replacement, because you can't use the numbers that are on this. I don't think they correlate. For some reason, Sam's uses a different numbering than the Philco originals. C52 is what we're looking for. Where is C52? Oh God. Did I go past that? These are all the R's. M's. Well, where the heck's the C's? Oh, here we go. C52. I think it's like right over here somewhere. If I'm not, C52. Okay, here we go. C52. It's this guy right here. And if I can get a little closer on that, maybe I can see what they call it, what Philco calls it. I don't know if we'll be able to read that or not. C20 maybe? C19, maybe it's C20. It's this guy right here. Let's see, C20. Yeah, it's this one right here. Not that big fat guy there, that's C43. That was C43. This is C52. So this has been replaced and it's got the right value. I mean, it's in 022, so that's probably not going to be a problem. Yeah, I'm sort of tempted to go ahead and try the high voltage at least to see what it does. I don't have the yoke hooked up or anything. I guess that wouldn't matter. Maybe we'll do that in the next video. More later.